Hi, good morning, and welcome to the ZP Vlog and Podcast. So we do this vlog and podcast every Sunday at 8 a.m. London time, and it's really just a wrap up on the news from Zimmer Peacock for this week. So the first thing I'll discuss is just a little note that we put out this week, really about QSP, which is quantitative system pharmacology. So this is really the kind of study of how therapeutic agents, really drugs that you would take, for a sort of a disease or to alleviate pain, for example. And you take these drugs and they get absorbed and they get distributed around the body and they get metabolized. There's also a risk of toxicology, and I'll mention that in a minute. So QSP, Quantitative Systems Pharmacology, really is building mathematical models that describe how these drugs are distributed and metabolized. And as I say, there's also a sort of another part of pharmacology, which is really toxicology, which kind of says that, is the drug itself or are the metabolites of the drugs toxic, and therefore you have a sort of a similar field, if not the same field, really, of quantitative system toxicology. It's just the emphasis of these two groups is slightly different. One of them is looking at kind of distribution of drugs and efficacy of drugs, how effective it is. And the other one is looking at the kind of side effects and negative effects of drugs. Is it toxic? Is it lethal? That would be the kind of extreme of that. Anyway, we attended a conference recently at ZP, and there's always been in the pharmaceutical industry this big sort of drive for digitization. It's not always clear, I think, what digitization makes or means. And then related to that term digitization, there's precision medicine. Now, suddenly, precision medicine is also a term that they use in the agricultural industry. So you have, for example, Zimmer Peacock, we make a nitrate sensor, and things like nitrate sensing can be used to monitor the nitrates in soil, and then farmers could add the fertilizer accordingly. So that's, really a precision application. That term precision has a very similar sort of definition then, I would say, in the pharmaceutical industry, where you can actually, rather than telling somebody to take a drug just based on population data, you can actually tell them essentially to take a drug based on their individual requirements. And in order to do that, you need a diagnostic. So a diagnostic would measure the drug itself, let's say, or actually measure a biomarker. So a classic for this would actually be a type 1 diabetic might monitor their blood glucose essentially with a glucose strip. Now that's really the biomarker, because the way they would then sort of essentially treat their diabetes is with insulin. Now, so insulin obviously, is a hormone that helps regulate glucose. So the combination of that therapeutic, which is insulin, and that diagnostic, which is glucose, they are linked, because what's happening is the patient is actually doing calculations. They're kind of looking at their current glucose, where their glucose should be. They look at the difference, and then they also have what's called a sensitivity factor, which is a very personalized factor, and from that they calculate the bolus, or the amount of insulin that they need to take. So this term precision medicine, it does in part take place, and it is happening in the treatment of type 1 diabetics, especially those who are taking insulin. Now, so at ZP, we actually think that, this idea essentially can be more broadly applied. You would not use precision medicine in an era where, in fact, you didn't have smartphones, you didn't have connected devices, and that was, was really sort of 20 years ago. So now it's not actually unreasonable to say, look, I have connected devices, I am able to process data a lot quicker into information than I was previously. So why do I not do precision medicine? So it's really just an inertia in that industry. So QSP, Quantitative System Pharmacology, probably provides the models or the understanding between the diagnostic, which is telling you something about concentration, and the therapeutic, which is possibly there to treat let's say to treat that particular disease. And if you want to link them to, you need a model. And at the moment, there are models. There's simple calculations that type 1 diabetics are doing, but actually those models could be more sophisticated. And it's probably worth saying it's worth automating those models. Really, models where the user is doing the calculations are fine, but it really helps people with a sort of a science and engineering and maths background. But if you don't have those kind of backgrounds, then you're sort of doing the calculations, and if you make an error, unfortunately, you are, especially with the case of insulin, you could really put yourself in serious harm. So that said, at Zimmer & Peacock, we are interested in the combination of therapeutics with diagnostics, and we think that QSP is at least one of the models or one of the disciplines that can link these two things together. So that's something that we've been thinking about in the last week. Some other news from Zimmer & Peacock this week. We do have a very excellent sister company in France called Madalex. And Madalex is based in Grenoble. They're French speaking. And so they've been putting together some videos about ZP products, but exclusively in French. So, if you can see, if you follow us on any social media, you'll see titles like ZP Produits et Services en France. So ZP's products and services in France, and then Youssef, who's the CEO of that company, has done a nice video where he's essentially talked through our products, our screen printed electrodes, and our biosensors. So we are grateful to Youssef for doing that. In a similar vein, Madalex rather has also been writing or producing, I would say, a video on our FoodSense product. So in that video, if you see anything on our social media that's kind of titled Comment mesure le degré de piquant de piment captured the Scoville heat unit, then that's really, again, another video by the excellent Youssef. And there he talks through how to measure the hotness of chili products using the FoodSense, and he does a sort of live demonstration of that. So we are grateful for him for doing that, and it's nice to be able to kind of talk about science and engineering, in the language of the people, in people's first languages, let's say. Now, every Thursday at 8 a.m. London time, we do a I should say Wednesday now, and I'm so sorry. Every Wednesday, 8 a.m. London time, we do a FoodSense webinar. So FoodSense is a important product for us at ZP. Actually, I think it's close to saying we do love it. And it's for example, measuring the hotness of chili or the spiciness or the pungency of ginger. If questions come in during the week, then we put together a quick, let's say, video about it, so that people can essentially get onto our products and, we answer their questions and hopefully give them a good onboarding, let's say, experience. So we did do that webinar this Wednesday at 8 a.m. London time. And at a similar moment, I should also say that we did have a question that came in through the ZP Developer Zone a few weeks ago. So we did put together a video about something we call the wafer holder. The wafer holder allows us to do electrodeposition upon wafers using electrochemical techniques. Electroplating being an absolute classic, but it could have been, let's say, other things as well. And so the guys just put together a bit of a Q&A video, or show and tell video, I should say, about that wafer holder. So thank you to the team for putting that together. And then just finally, every Thursday at 8 a.m. London time, we do like to put together, or we like to answer questions that come in during the week. So people have a technical question, sometimes it's just a products question, but either type of question, we like to put together these webinars every Thursday, 8 a.m. London time. We just answer questions that kind of came in for the week. So if I was to sort of summarize the week today, or the week this week, we did put out quite a significant note around precision medicine, around the use of models, which I could describe as a digital twin of the patient, and how the patient can actually more precisely take their medication, as opposed to just blankets, 2 tablets in the morning and 2 tablets in the afternoon. That's not very precise. That's just I'm not sure if I would say pedantic, but it's just very classical, but in this modern age, not necessarily. Then, of course, we do our webinars. So we do support our food sense through our weekly webinars, and then we do support our standard products through our weekly webinars as well. So I would say this: look, if you've got any questions of ZP, don't hesitate to reach out to us. There's a big contact us button on the website, and we'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I wish you a good week, and thank you very much. Okay, take care.